As soon as I had the divorce papers in my hands, ending 3 years of an absolute nightmare of a marriage, my ex-husband was already buying his mistress a $1.5 million diamond ring, and he was doing it with my money. I gripped the court documents tightly in my hands. The edges of the paper still seemed to hold some warmth from the printer. A gust of cold wind from the street brushed against my face, but I didn't feel the chill at all. Thinking about the last 3 years of being tormented by Jason Miller, today was the day I could finally take a deep breath. Just as I was about to head toward the parking garage, I heard a familiar laugh coming from the entrance of the high-end luxury mall nearby. It was an unmistakable voice. It was Jason, and beside him was a woman acting sickeningly sweet. Without even having to think about it, I knew it was Lily Foster. I stopped in my tracks for a moment and accidentally glanced toward the main entrance of Neiman Marcus. I wished I hadn't. As soon as I saw them, a wave of pure anger rushed to my head. Jason was wearing the custom-tailored Tom Ford suit I had bought him last year, his arm wrapped possessively around Lily's waist. Lily, wearing a tight pink designer dress, was rubbing her slightly protruding belly with one hand, while clinging to Jason's arm with the other. With a smile that crinkled the corners of her eyes, the couple walked straight into the luxury jewelry boutique on the ground floor. That boutique was a place I had once mentioned to Jason, a store where even the most basic pieces started at astronomical figures. Back then, I had only commented in passing that a necklace in the window was beautiful and that we could come look at it when we had the chance. Jason had openly frowned at me. He berated me, saying all I thought about was spending money, asking if I thought cash grew on trees. But now, he seemed to be the most generous man in the world. As if hypnotized, I followed them inside and hid behind a marble pillar near the entrance of the boutique to watch the scene unfold. "Babe, look at these diamond rings. Pick whichever one you like the most. Your man is buying you everything today." Jason's voice dripped with a forced, sugary sweetness, completely different from the harsh tone he always used with me. Lily responded with a high-pitched, syrupy voice. "Jason, you're so good to me. But won't it be too expensive?" Even as she said that, her hand was already reaching toward the glass display, pointing at the largest diamond ring sitting right in the center. I followed her finger and saw a diamond of at least 5 carats set on a platinum band. The price tag next to it clearly showed the number, $1,500,000. A sales associate, seeing the scene, immediately approached them with glowing enthusiasm and a smile from ear to ear. "Ma'am, you have an exquisite eye. This star crown is the most exclusive piece in our boutique. The diamond is a flawless VVS, 1 clarity, and the cut is of the highest grade. It's especially fitting for a woman as lucky as you." Hearing the words VVS 1 and lucky, Lily preened even more, deliberately pushing her chest out as she looked at Jason. "Jason, even the sales associate says I'm lucky." Jason stroked her hair with a tenderness I had never seen him display. "Of course, Jason Miller's woman has to be lucky. $1.5 million is nothing. It's pocket change. If you like it, I'd buy you a $40 million ring, not just $1.5 million. After he finished speaking, he deliberately glanced toward the entrance, as if he were desperate to show off his wealth to anyone walking by. I quickly ducked behind the pillar so he wouldn't see me. Other customers browsing jewelry around us, drawn in by the commotion, began to whisper, "Oh my God, he's gonna drop $1.5 million on a ring without even blinking. That guy must be a billionaire. The girl looks pregnant. They must be getting married. He treats his fiancée so well. I wish my husband was half as generous as that guy." Hearing their conversations, I smiled cynically to myself. What did they know? The suit Jason was wearing was bought by me, and the black card sitting in his wallet was one I paid for when he begged me to add him to my account. Now he was using my money to buy a diamond ring for his mistress, playing the part of a filthy rich tycoon. Jason seemed to soak up those envious stares. He cleared his throat, and, gesturing to the sales associate with his chin, said, "We'll take this one. Wrap it up nicely." The associate's eyes lit up, and she nodded repeatedly. "Yes, of course, Mr. Miller. Will you be paying with a card or a wire transfer?" "Card." Jason pulled a heavy metal black card from the inside pocket of his jacket and waved it proudly in his hand. "This Amex Centurion won't have any issues going through, right?" The associate, seeing the exclusive card, became even more respectful. "Of course not, sir. Clients with the black card are our most distinguished guests of the highest tier. I'll process this right away. The associate took the card and walked over to the checkout counter. Standing behind the pillar, I gripped my cell phone tightly. On the screen was a notification from my banking app from 3 minutes ago. Dear customer, the authorized user card ending in XXXX has been successfully canceled. The available credit limit has been restored to the primary account. I looked at Jason standing by the counter. He had his arm around Lily's waist, joking and laughing with an air of complete arrogance. What a great actor you are, Jason, I thought to myself. I wonder where you're going to hide that smug face when the card gets declined. The associate swiped the card into the terminal, typed in the amount, and turned to Jason. Mr. Miller, if you could just insert the chip and enter the PIN, please. Jason, without a second thought, punched the 4 digits into the keypad. I remembered that PIN was his birthday. When I added him as an authorized user, he insisted on that date because it was easy to remember. With a sharp beep, a line of text appeared on the terminal screen. The smile on the associate's face froze for a second. She looked at the screen with confusion and tried running the chip again. The result was exactly the same. Jason, noticing the associate's silence, frowned impatiently. What's the holdup? Why is it taking so long to swipe a simple card? Is your machine broken? The associate forced a polite smile and said, Just one moment, Mr. Miller. Let me try this one more time. Right at that moment, the boutique manager stepped out from the back office, took one look at the situation at the counter, and walked over briskly. He picked up the terminal, checked the screen, looked at the black card Jason had handed over, and his face instantly turned dead serious. Jason, assuming the manager had stepped in because the associate didn't know how to handle such a large transaction, became even more arrogant. Manager, what's wrong with your system? My black card has never had an issue. Why isn't it working today? Fix it. Fast. Don't waste my time while I'm buying a gift for my girl. The manager first smiled politely, cleared his throat, looked at Jason, and said word for word, I am very sorry, Mr. Miller, but this black card was reported canceled 30 minutes ago. What? Jason's voice jumped an octave. Impossible. He snatched the card out of the manager's hand and stared at it, eyes wide. That can't be right. This card is mine. How could it be canceled? Is there a glitch in your system? The manager explained patiently. Mr. Miller, the information in our merchant system is very clear. The primary account holder associated with this card requested its cancellation 30 minutes ago. Therefore, this card can no longer be used. Jason's face went from arrogant to an ashen gray in a fraction of a second. With the black card trembling in his hand, he muttered, Impossible. That can't be true. Standing behind the pillar, I felt a weight I had carried for years suddenly lift as I watched his absolute bewilderment. Starting today, I was going to pay him back, one by one, for every single humiliation he had made me suffer over the last 3 years. While I watched Jason, nervous and completely lost, I gently traced the edge of my phone case, a gift from my late mother. This was my front row ticket to a spectacular show. Jason, clinging to the black card like it was a life preserver, lunged toward the counter and slammed his hand down. Run it again! Cancelled? I applied for this card with my social security number. Who the hell can cancel it without my authorization? Your system is garbage. Check it again right now. The manager, maintaining his professional calm, pulled an iPad from under the counter, opened their VIP client portal, and showed it to Jason. Mr. Miller, please see for yourself. This is the card's profile. The name registered on the plastic is yours, but the primary account linked to it is under a different woman's name. 30 minutes ago, the primary account holder submitted a cancellation request, and all authorized user cards, including yours, were deactivated simultaneously. There is no error on our end. The identity verification was fully approved. Primary account? What primary account? Jason's voice shook. He stared blankly at the information on the iPad, swiping the screen frantically. When I got this card, nobody told me anything about a primary account. The bank is scamming me. At that moment, Lily stepped up, holding her belly, and pointed at the manager with an entitled, threatening tone. Exactly. Jason is a VIP client at Chase Bank. How could they make a mistake like this? You're probably just making excuses because you don't want to sell us this ring. Listen here. If you ruin this special day for us, do you think you can handle the consequences? The employees kept their heads down in silence, but some of the nosy customers couldn't hold back. A woman whispered loudly to the person next to her. A minute ago, he was saying $1.5 million was pocket change, and now that his card declined, he's blaming the bank. That comment clearly reached Jason's ears. He whipped around and glared at the woman, who got scared and immediately shut her mouth. But Jason, with nowhere to vent his intense frustration, suddenly spotted me standing by the marble pillar. His eyes lit up not with joy but with the look of a man who had just found his scapegoat. He dropped Lily's hand, closed the distance between us in 3 long strides, pointed his finger right in my face, and yelled, "Sophia Sterling, this was you. This is one of your petty little tricks. You were making passive-aggressive threats before the divorce, and now you have the nerve to cancel my card behind my back? Are you out of your mind?" I crossed my arms and took a step back to dodge his finger. During the 3 years we lived together, what I hated most was his habit of pointing at people's faces. "Jason, try using that brain of yours before you start barking," I said calmly. "Whether it was me or not, deep down, you already know the answer." Jason was speechless for a second, but he quickly recovered his arrogant sneer. He looked me up and down mockingly. Well, still wearing that cheap old trench coat from last year, huh? I guess since the divorce you can't even afford new clothes. Of course, a stay-at-home wife who doesn't work. What were you going to do without me? I guess you have to settle for coming to high-end malls just to watch other people buy jewelry. Lily joined him, pressing herself against his side and showing off her bump. "Sophia, you shouldn't speak like that. If Jason is buying me a $1.5 million ring, it's because I deserve it. Not like some women who clung to him for 3 years, never got a single piece of jewelry and ended up divorced." "Exactly," Jason said, stroking Lily's hair and looking at me with pure disgust. "Look at yourself, Sophia. You look pathetic. And now look at Lily. She's carrying my child. It's only right that I spoil her and buy her nice things. What do you even know how to do besides cook and clean? Oh, wait, you can't even cook right. The last time my mom visited from Texas, the soup you made was so salty it was inedible." Hearing him bring up his mother made me smile inwardly. His mother tormented me daily, criticizing me for not giving her a grandchild and for wasting money. What she didn't know was that all the expensive health supplements and gold bracelets Jason gifted her were bought with my money. But I wasn't going to argue with him over such trivial things. I just looked at the black card in his hand and said slowly, "Jason, are you sure that card is yours? Think really hard. When you got it, whose money was backing it? And who pulled strings with the bank executives so they'd issue a black card to someone like you?" Jason's face changed, and his gaze faltered, but he quickly composed himself and shot back. "What does it matter who pulled strings? The card has my name on it, so it's mine. Sophia, call the bank right now and reactivate it. If you don't, I swear to God I won't let this go." "I can't reactivate it," I said, shrugging calmly. "Once an authorized user is removed, it cannot be undone. And that primary account was mine from the very beginning. If I want to cancel a card, I cancel it. It has absolutely nothing to do with you." "Your primary account?" Jason burst out laughing as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, pointing at me again. "Sophia, did the divorce mess with your head? Where would a stay-at-home housewife like you get the kind of money to open a primary account for a Centurion card? Stop pretending to be rich and get the hell out of here. Get out of my sight and Lily's." Lily laughed too. Her voice was shrill and grating. "That's right, Jason. Don't waste your time talking to her. She's just jealous that we're doing great and came here to cause a scene. Just pay with another card. Do you have other cards from different banks?" "No, wait." Jason, as if just remembering, slapped his forehead. He immediately pulled several cards from his wallet. They were all platinum and gold cards from various major banks. He waved them in my face and said, "See, Sophia? Even if I can't use this black card, I have all of these. $1.5 million is a piece of cake with any of them." Saying that, he picked out a gold Chase card and handed it to the associate. "Run this one. Hurry up, don't waste any more of my time." The associate took the card hastily, inserted it into the terminal, and typed in the amount. Then she looked at Jason and said, "Mr. Miller, your PIN, please." Jason shot me a triumphant glare as he typed in his code. The people around us stared intently at the terminal, and even Lily stepped closer with a look of pure anticipation. But after a sharp beep, the screen clearly displayed the words, "Declined, insufficient funds." Jason's smile froze on his face. Impossible. This card has to have at least a $50,000 limit on it. How can it be declined? The associate tried again, but the result was the same. "Mr. Miller, I'm sorry, but it really says insufficient funds. Would you like to try another card?" Gritting his teeth, Jason pulled out a platinum card and handed it over. This time, without a trace of his previous arrogance, he stared fixedly at the terminal, his hands trembling slightly. The result was, once again, insufficient funds. Jason's face turned as white as a sheet of paper. He snatched the cards back from the associate, took out the remaining few he had in his wallet, and handed them over one by one. But no matter which card he used, the result was always the same: insufficient funds. The whispers around us grew louder. "Oh my God! So many cards and no money on any of them. All that bragging for nothing. Turns out it was all a front. What an embarrassment. Trying to flex for his mistress and ending up looking completely broke. And the girl, what a piece of work. Knocked up by a guy like that and she thought she hit the jackpot." Lily couldn't take the embarrassment anymore. She yanked Jason's arm and asked nervously, "What is going on? Why is there no money on the cards?" Jason didn't have time for her. He spun around to face me and spat, his eyes full of resentment. "Sophia, this was you. You drained all the money from my accounts." Seeing his furious expression, I finally burst out laughing. "Jason, don't you think you know exactly what you've done? But don't worry, I haven't touched a single penny of your money. Then why has the money disappeared from my cards?" Jason's scream echoed through the jewelry boutique, making the glass cases vibrate slightly. Even though he lunged at me as if he were going to devour me, my heart was completely calm. Over the last 3 years, I had grown exhausted watching his temper tantrums. "Me taking your money?" I took 2 steps toward him, and with a low voice, but loud enough for everyone to hear, I said, "Jason, put your hand on your heart and tell me, out of all those credit cards you have in your wallet, is there a single one that wasn't paid off with my money? Your monthly salary from that failing tech startup is barely $3,500, which isn't even enough to cover the suit you're wearing. Where exactly were you getting the money to qualify for platinum cards and buy luxury jewelry?" Hearing this, the murmurs turned into an uproar. The woman who had whispered earlier spoke up again. "Wow, so that guy was living off her money. He was a total deadbeat, and walking around with all that arrogance. A freeloader bringing his side piece to buy diamond rings. What a disgusting man. And the girl is just as bad," someone else chimed in. "Pregnant by a scrub and walking around so proud. What a pair of clowns." Lily's face turned as red as a boiled lobster. She hid timidly behind Jason, but still tried to defend him. "Stop telling lies. Jason has his own tech company. Why would he use her money? It's obvious she's just jealous of us and is making up these slanders." "Company?" I laughed with sheer disdain. "That bankrupt startup? I paid the rent for your office space last month. If I hadn't, the landlord would have kicked you out on the street. If you don't believe me, ask his employees. By the way, they haven't been paid in 3 months." The words hit Jason right in the chest, and his face twisted even further. He turned to the manager and yelled, "Don't listen to this crazy woman's nonsense. Call the bank right now. It is absolutely impossible for my black card to be canceled. Either your system is broken, or this woman paid you off to humiliate me." The manager calmly pulled out his smartphone, dialed the bank's VIP customer service line in front of everyone, and put it on speaker. The phone rang twice before someone answered. "Good afternoon. You've reached the JP Morgan Reserve Exclusive Client Services. How may I assist you today?" "Good afternoon. I am the manager of the fine jewelry boutique at the Promenade Mall. We have a client here, Mr. Jason Miller, presenting an authorized user black card ending in XXXX, but our system shows it is canceled. I wanted to verify the status." The manager clearly read off the card number. The representative remained silent for a moment and then responded, "1 moment, please. Yes. I can confirm that the card ending in that number was canceled today at 10:15 a.m. PST. The cancellation request was initiated by the primary account holder, Miss Sophia Sterling. All authorized user cards were deactivated simultaneously, and the available credit was consolidated back to the primary account. Did you hear that? Jason screamed at the phone as if he had found a savior. I am the name on that card. What right does Sophia Sterling have to cancel it? What your bank did is illegal. I'm going to sue you. The representative's voice remained calm and professional. Sir, according to the terms and conditions of this account, the primary account holder has full managerial rights over all authorized user cards, including the right to terminate them at any time. When the card was issued, you, as the authorized user, accepted these terms. If you have any disputes, you may visit your nearest branch with your ID to review the original contract. Terms? What terms? Jason's voice lost its power. His eyes started darting around. I don't remember signing any contract with those terms when I got it. Sir, the authorization was done electronically, and the digital signature record should be linked to the primary account. Furthermore, the representative added after a pause, the annual fee and the credit limit of the card are assumed entirely by the primary account holder. The authorized user only possesses the privilege of use, not ownership. Those words hit Jason like a bucket of ice water. He stood completely paralyzed, gripping the counter so hard his knuckles turned white. For a long time, he couldn't say a single word. The whispers around him intensified, and some people started pulling out their iPhones to record him secretly. Camera flashes were going off. Lily was equally stunned. She yanked Jason's arm and said, on the verge of tears, Jason, what does this mean? Primary account? Authorized user? You told me this card was yours. And we still haven't bought the ring. Shut up! Jason shoved her hand away roughly. Lily lost her balance, stumbling backward and almost crashing into a glass display case. She pouted, looking incredibly offended, with tears welling in her eyes. But this time, nobody felt sorry for her. Someone in the crowd even muttered, serves her right. That's what you get for being a homewrecker. The manager put his phone away and addressed Jason with a tone that was polite, yet icy cold. Mr. Miller, the situation has been clarified. This card is permanently deactivated and cannot be used. If you have no other form of payment, we cannot hold the Star Crown Diamond for you. We have other clients waiting. Jason had lost every ounce of his previous arrogance. He looked at the brilliant diamond ring in the display case, felt the mocking stares of the people around him, and his face flushed red with a mix of rage and utter humiliation. He gritted his teeth, and as if making a monumental decision, he turned back to me. His tone suddenly softened. Sophia, I'm sorry. I've been an idiot. Could you forgive me? Just reactivate the card. As soon as I buy the ring, I'll give the card back to you, and I promise I'll never see Lily again. We could try again. I almost burst out laughing at how quickly he switched sides. The same man who a minute ago was screaming in my face was now begging for reconciliation, playing the victim. He was the very definition of trash. I looked at him with eyes as cold as ice. Jason, do you think those words mean anything now? When you were cheating on me with Lily, did you ever think a day like this would come? When you were burning through my money, did you remember whose it was? And now that your card declined, you come crawling back? It's way too late. Jason, realizing playing nice wasn't going to work, hardened his expression again. He took a step toward me, trying to grab my arm, and threatened me. Sophia, listen to me the easy way. Reactivate this card right now. If you don't, before he could finish his sentence, a stern voice interrupted him. I turned around and saw the mall security guards rushing toward us. Behind them were two men in suits, likely mall management. Someone must have hit the panic button when they saw Jason try to put his hands on me. A guard stepped between us, separating us, and said to Jason sternly, Sir, please watch your language and your behavior. If you continue to cause a disturbance, we will be forced to escort you off the premises. Jason, seeing the imposing security guards and feeling the icy glares of the crowd, finally cowered. He shot me one last look of pure hatred, grabbed Lily by the arm, and said through gritted teeth, Let's go. Lily, who still hadn't taken her eyes off the diamond ring, finally reacted when Jason pulled her. Wobbling in her high heels, she followed him toward the exit. As she passed by me, she made sure to glare and mutter, You'll see. Just as I was about to walk out of the jewelry store myself, I heard Jason's furious yell from behind me. Sophia Sterling, don't you move. I stopped and turned around. Jason, dragging Lily along, was stomping back toward me. His suit was wrinkled, and his hair was a mess. Nothing was left of his polished look from earlier. The onlookers who had started to disperse gathered around again, eager to see the finale of the drama. Jason ran up to me, panting, and pointed at the phone I held in my hand. "You say you're the primary account holder for that card? Do you have proof? Do you think I'm just going to swallow that you haven't conspired with the bank? I've used that card for 2 years. All the charges are mine. It's my card." Lily, standing next to him, backed him up. Although she had been scared moments ago, seeing Jason regain some false confidence made her raise her voice too. "That's right, Jason has bought tons of stuff with that card. How could you just cancel it like that? I bet you hacked into it on purpose because you're jealous. I'm pregnant with his baby." Seeing them so delusional, I couldn't help but laugh. I pulled my iPhone out of my designer purse, opened my banking app, and turned the screen around for everyone to see. "Everyone, please take a look. This is the dashboard of my primary bank account. It clearly says, Primary account holder, Sophia Sterling. And right below in the list of authorized users, the first one is the black card Mr. Miller was just trying to use. The last 4 digits are the exact same. People leaned in to look at the screen, and someone read aloud. It's true. It says Sophia Sterling. The authorized user is Jason Miller. Jason narrowed his eyes, stepped closer, took a quick glance at the screen, and then looked away, insisting, "That. You could have faked that with Photoshop. With the technology nowadays, who knows if that's real? Fake?" I smiled disdainfully and tapped into the transaction history. Then take a look at this too. The massive annual fee for this card, and every single charge Mr. Miller just mentioned were paid directly from my primary checking account. The luxury condo he bought for Miss Foster in West Hollywood last year for $1.2 million. He put the down payment on this very card, and the cash for the rest was wired straight out of my account. Mr. Miller, are you going to tell me this is fake too? Jason's face turned livid. He opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. Lily froze in place. She subconsciously touched her belly, unable to hide her complete shock. She had always believed Jason bought that luxury condo with his own hard-earned money from his startup. Now she was discovering it was bought with his ex-wife's money. At that moment, the mall's general manager stepped forward with a folder of papers. "Mr. Miller, our luxury mall actually has a direct partnership with Chase Private Client Services, which allows us to verify certain VIP client statuses. Miss Sophia Sterling is indeed a top-tier client, and the credit limit on her primary portfolio exceeds $100 million. This authorized user card was issued 3 years ago by Miss Sterling for marital expenses. Given that you are now divorced, it is entirely within Miss Sterling's legal rights to revoke access to the card." The manager paused and added, "And exactly 30 minutes ago, Miss Sterling contacted our mall's concierge service to request a complete freeze on the purchasing power of any individual attempting to use accounts linked to her name. We have already processed the request. In other words, sir, right now you cannot make a single purchase in this entire mall with any card linked to Miss Sterling." Hearing this, the crowd erupted. So that's what it was. The guy isn't just a deadbeat. He was funding his side piece using his wife's millions. That is insane. Buying a house for a mistress with another woman's money, and then trying to buy a diamond ring with it too. And when he gets caught, he denies it. Disgusting. Miss Sterling is a saint for giving a guy like that a black card. I would have kicked him to the curb years ago. Jason, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of criticism, couldn't even lift his head. He clenched his fists so tightly his nails dug into his palms. He looked up, dazed, and shot me a glare filled with pure venom. "Sophia, you had this plan from the very beginning, didn't you? You canceled the card right after the divorce was finalized just to humiliate me in front of all these people. You are an evil, evil woman." I stared right back at him. The 3 years of accumulated humiliation finally came to the surface, but my voice remained perfectly steady. "Jason, 3 years ago, when your first business went under, I was the one who paid off your debts using the inheritance my parents left me. When you whined that you needed a black card so you wouldn't look like a loser in front of Silicon Valley investors, I was the one who pulled strings to get you added to my account. When your mother got sick and was hospitalized, I was the one who stayed by her bed day and night and paid the $30,000 out-of-network hospital bills. I treated you that well, and you used my money to keep a mistress. Not only that, when I found out, you conspired with Lily to blindside me with a divorce, hoping to leave me with nothing. Tell me, which one of us is evil? The crowd around us yelled in outrage. A man in a business suit couldn't hold back and stepped forward. Hey, buddy, you crossed the line. Your wife treated you like royalty and you repay her like this? You have no conscience. Exactly. Apologize to her right now and pay back every cent you spent. Jason, facing a wall of accusations, turned red, then pale, unable to muster a single word in his defense. Lily, seeing that the situation was turning incredibly hostile, yanked Jason's arm and whispered urgently, Jason, let's get out of here. There are too many people. Leave? To where? I stopped them, my voice turning to ice. Do you think you can just walk away like nothing happened, Jason? The condo, the designer bags, the jewelry you bought Lily with my money, and the rent for your office space, and the salaries of your employees. When exactly are you planning to pay all of that back? Jason's eyes darted around, but he tried to stand his ground. You gave me that money voluntarily. They were marital assets. Why should I have to pay it back? I pulled the divorce decree out of my bag and waved it in his face. We are no longer married. And I gave you that money because you promised we were building a life together. From the moment you committed infidelity and breached your fiduciary duty to our marriage, those funds became unjust enrichment, and I have every legal right to claw them back. I paused, letting the silence hang, before delivering the final blow. I've already retained a lawyer. First thing tomorrow morning, a process server will be delivering a summons to your condo and your tech office. If you don't return the money, I will sue you into the ground. A judge will place a lien on your startup, and all your assets will be liquidated to pay off your debt to me. The words sue and lien drained whatever color was left in Jason's face. He knew I didn't make empty threats. Once, when he had a legal dispute with a vendor, I had hired the best corporate litigators in LA to crush them, so he knew exactly what I was capable of. He opened his mouth to argue, but nothing came out. The crowd kept jeering at him. Unable to take it anymore, he shoved his way through the people, grabbed Lily, and practically ran away. His pathetic, fleeing figure looked absolutely nothing like the arrogant tech bro he had pretended to be just an hour ago. Jason sprinted out of the mall, dragging Lily behind him. But they had barely taken a few steps down the sidewalk when Lily violently yanked her hand free. Her expensive heels clacked sharply against the pavement as she lunged back toward me. Her carefully applied makeup was smudged, and pieces of her blowout had come undone. Her eyes were wide with pure resentment. There was no trace of her previous sweet demeanor. You bitch! Lily screamed at the top of her lungs, swinging her hands, trying to grab a handful of my hair. Just because you can't keep a man on your own, you come here to ruin everyone else's day? You think just because you canceled a credit card you won? Listen to me. Jason loves me. Even if he's completely broke, he'll never go back to an old hag like you. I had anticipated she might snap, so I calmly took a step back, letting her hands swipe at empty air. Two women who had followed us out of the mall immediately intervened, grabbing Lily by the arms and holding her back. One of them, frowning deeply, said, Miss, what is wrong with you? Trying to assault people. You're the mistress who wrecked a home? And you have the nerve to scream at her? Exactly, the other woman added. You should be thanking God that Miss Sterling isn't pressing charges against you. Living a life of luxury on another woman's dime and now you want to get violent? You have zero shame. Lily, pinned by the two women, kept screaming. Who used her money? Jason earned all of that. The luxury condo I live in, the Cartier bracelets I'm wearing, he bought it all with his own blood, sweat, and tears. Don't listen to this crazy woman, it has nothing to do with her. I laughed mockingly and pulled a thick manila envelope from my designer tote. Yesterday, while organizing my financial records for the lawyers, I had brought these copies specifically in case these two tried to deny everything. I pulled out the first document and held it up for Lily to see. Look closely. This is a copy of the closing disclosure for the condo in West Hollywood, dated March 15th of last year, along with the wire transfer receipt. At the time, Jason told me that since you were pregnant, he needed a stable place to live, and he begged me for the down payment. I, being soft-hearted at the time, agreed and wired $300,000 from my primary account directly to the escrow company. Isn't that right? Lily's eyes locked onto the massive wire transfer amount on the bank letterhead, and her lips began to tremble. No. That can't be true. Jason told me that was money he got from an angel investor. How could it be your money? And why wouldn't it be my money? I pulled out another document. Jason's W-2 from last year. Look at this too. Last year, Jason's tech startup was burning through cash. His actual W-2 salary was exactly $42,000 a year. After taxes in California, his take-home pay was barely $3,000 a month. Do you honestly think that with that kind of money he could afford a $1.2 million condo, Birkin bags, and Van Cleef jewelry? People crowded around to look at the tax forms, and someone gasped. Good Lord! Making $3K a month and walking around telling people he bought $1 million condo? The absolute audacity. And the girl, how naive. Playing the sugar baby without even doing a background check to see if the guy actually had money. Now that the whole scam is exposed, what is she going to do? Lily's face shifted from flushed red to a sickly pale white. Tears spilled from her eyes, not out of sadness, but out of sheer, panicked bewilderment. She saw Jason, who had just walked back toward them to see what the commotion was, and screamed through her sobs. Jason, is it true? You bought that condo with this woman's money? Everything you told me was a lie. Jason, already humiliated beyond belief, had no idea how to handle Lily's shrieks. He avoided her gaze and stammered, Lily, don't listen to them. That money, it was a loan. I cut him off, my voice loud and clear. A loan from who? Did you borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars without signing a single promissory note? Or did you borrow it from your wife? Because I certainly don't recall authorizing a loan to fund your love nest. Jason couldn't answer. He just hung his head like a scolded child. But Lily wasn't done. She broke free from the women holding her, rushed up to Jason, and started pounding her fists against his chest. You liar! You've been conning me this whole time. You said you were a CEO, that you had millions in stock options, and it turns out you're just a broke freeloader. I've been sleeping with a con artist. And the baby! As she said that, the sheer stress and emotion overwhelmed her. She suddenly grabbed her stomach, her face turning the color of chalk. She doubled over, groaning. My stomach. It hurts so bad. The onlookers immediately panicked. Someone yelled, "Oh my God, she might be having a miscarriage. Someone call 911 or get her to an ER." Jason panicked too. He held Lily up and said nervously, Lily, are you okay? You're scaring me. I'm taking you to Cedars-Sinai right now. But Lily violently pushed him away. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead. Still, she gritted her teeth, turned, and glared at me. This is all your fault, Sophia. If you hadn't come here and argued with me, my baby would be fine. Give me my baby back. Her attempt to shift the blame sparked absolutely no sympathy in me. I looked at her coldly. Lily, the person who lunged at me, insulted me, and tried to physically assault me was you. What do I have to do with this? Furthermore, the child you are carrying belongs to Jason. If you want to hold someone accountable, look at him. Why are you yelling at me? Lily had no rebuttal. She just kept moaning in pain as her body slid toward the pavement. Jason, realizing how critical the situation was, finally dropped his act. He scooped her up in his arms and bolted toward the parking garage, muttering, Lily, hold on. The hospital is right down the street. The crowd, watching them rush off, kept shaking their heads. What a piece of work. She starts a fight, gets herself worked up, and then blames someone else for her stomach cramps. Serves Jason right. Got outed as a broke scrub. And now his pregnant side piece is in the hospital. He's got a mountain of problems waiting for him. Miss Sterling is incredible, though. Didn't even flinch. Just pulled out the receipts and dropped the mic. Good for her. Feeling a sense of deep relief, I put the documents back into my tote bag. I felt absolutely nothing for them. Lily's pain looked real. But this was the path she had chosen. She had to deal with the consequences herself. I took out my iPhone and called my lawyer. Attorney James, please draft the cease and desist and the formal civil complaint. Have the process server deliver them first thing tomorrow morning to Jason Miller's current address and his corporate office. Both of them. Yes, Miss King Sterling. The lawyer replied smoothly on the other end of the line. I have all the documentation ready. The server will be out by 8 a.m. By the way, I ran an asset search on Mr. Miller. Aside from the equity in the condo purchased with your funds, he only has a used Tesla valued at around $25,000. There are no other assets of value. His startup currently has 3 months of unpaid payroll and outstanding vendor invoices. I frowned slightly. I didn't realize Jason had racked up that much debt, but that was his problem now. It had nothing to do with me. Understood. Serve him first, and see how he reacts. If he doesn't cooperate immediately, file the lawsuit and file an emergency motion for an injunction to freeze his accounts. I hung up and checked my Apple Watch. It was almost lunchtime. The manager of the jewelry boutique walked out and said respectfully, Miss Sterling, I am so sorry for the disturbance today. We have already notified mall corporate security, and moving forward, Mr. Jason Miller and Miss Lily Foster have been permanently banned from the premises. I nodded, thanked him, and walked away. Jason burst through the sliding doors of the Cedars-Sinai emergency room, carrying Lily in his arms. A triage nurse immediately took charge, loading her onto a gurney and rushing her behind the double doors, while an admissions clerk approached with a clipboard. Sir, are you family? I need you to step over to admissions first. Since she doesn't have insurance on file, we require a $5,000 deposit before we can process an emergency OB/GYN consult. The rest of the treatment costs will be billed later. Jason, sweating profusely, frantically dug into his wallet. He still had the credit cards that had declined at Neiman Marcus. He pulled out a platinum card and slapped it on the counter. Run this one, please. The clerk inserted the chip into the terminal, but less than 2 seconds later, the machine beeped a harsh denial. Sir, this card is declining for insufficient funds. Impossible. Jason swapped it for a gold card. Try this one. The result was the same. Insufficient funds. He pulled out every single card in his wallet, swiping them one by one, but the terminal kept spitting out the exact same error code. Finally, the clerk lost patience. Sir, do you have a valid form of payment or not? The patient is waiting for emergency medication. Jason was sweating bullets. He pulled out his phone and opened his banking app. His checking account had exactly $300. His Venmo and Cash App balances combined didn't even reach $500. That was money he had borrowed from a buddy yesterday just to take Lily out for drinks. With trembling hands, he started calling the frat brothers and startup buddies he always partied with, begging for cash. Hey, Chad. Man, can you spot me $5,000? It's an absolute emergency. $5,000? Jason, I'm tapped out, bro. My startup is bootstrapping right now. Click. He called another friend. Bro, it's Jason. Do me a solid and wire me $5,000? I swear I'll pay you back by Friday. Jason, you still owe me $3,000 from that trip to Vegas last month. I literally don't have it. Click. He made a dozen calls, but everyone either sent him to voicemail or gave him an excuse. Jason finally realized that all these guys, who used to call him brother, only did so because he used to flash an Amex Black card and pick up the tab. Now that the money was gone, no one wanted anything to do with him. The ER doors swung open, and a doctor walked out looking grim. Are you the family member? The patient's condition is unstable. We need to administer medication and possibly prep for a D&C to prevent hemorrhaging. I need financial clearance from admissions to proceed with the meds. Jason was like an ant on a hot skillet. Suddenly, one person came to mind. Sophia. She was the only person with the kind of money to fix this. Without a word to the doctor, he sprinted out of the hospital. His only thought was to find Sophia and beg her to reactivate the card. He knew that after the divorce, she hadn't moved far. She still lived in the ultra-luxury penthouse they used to share in Beverly Hills. He caught an Uber and headed straight there. As soon as he arrived, he leaned against the security gate, his eyes glued to the entrance, terrified of missing her. After waiting for nearly an hour, he finally saw Sophia returning with some high-end shopping bags. She was wearing a beige Burberry trench coat, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, looking far more radiant than she had before the divorce. Jason ran toward her like he had found a life raft, blocking her path. Sophia, thank God you're here, he gasped, out of breath. Please, you have to help me. Sophia stopped, frowned, and took a step back to maintain her distance. Jason, what the hell are you doing here? Where's Lily? Lily's in the ER. Jason grabbed her arm tightly. She's having horrible cramps. The doctor says she needs emergency treatment to save the baby, but the hospital wants a $5,000 deposit. My cards are frozen, and none of my friends will lend me cash. You're the only one who can help me. Just reactivate the black card, or wire me $5,000. I swear on my life I'll pay you back. Sophia ripped her arm out of his grip and stared at him with absolute zero emotion. And why should I help you? Whatever happens to you and Lily is not my problem. How is it not your problem? Jason yelled, desperate. We were husband and wife. Sophia. I'm sorry. I was an idiot. I was wrong to cheat with Lily, and I was wrong to blow through your money. I won't do it again. Just reactivate the card. We can start over. I swear I'll be good. A few residents walking their dogs stopped to watch. A woman from the penthouse next door recognized him and whispered to her husband, Isn't that Jason? I heard they finalized their divorce a few days ago, and he's already back begging. He must be broke. Look at him. He looks like a vagrant. Hearing the whispers, Jason felt his face burn, but for the sake of the money, he swallowed his pride. Seeing that Sophia wasn't giving an inch, he suddenly dropped to his knees. His knees slammed against the concrete with a dull thud. The people around them gasped. Oh my God, he's actually begging on his knees. Jason looked up, his eyes bloodshot, tears streaming down his face. It was impossible to tell if he was genuinely desperate or just putting on an Oscar-worthy performance. Sophia, please, have some mercy. Have mercy on the innocent baby Lily is carrying. It's a human life. If you don't help us, Lily and the baby are going to die. Seeing him kneeling on the pavement, Sophia didn't feel a shred of pity, only profound disgust. She spoke in a voice like cracked ice. Jason, stop acting. When you were sleeping with Lily in our bed, did you have mercy on me? When you bought her a condo and diamonds with my money, did you remember that we were husband and wife? And now that your accounts are empty, you come crying to me? Do you think I'm that stupid? It's true. Jason crawled forward, reaching out as if to grab the hem of her coat. Sophia, I swear to you, if you help me this one time, I will dump Lily today. I'll never talk to her again. From now on, I'll do whatever you say, whatever you want. Dump her? Sophia laughed dryly. Do you think Lily is going to let you walk away that easily? And by the way, that baby she's carrying, are you absolutely sure it's yours? Word around town is that Lily was seeing a couple of different guys before she locked onto you. Those words struck like lightning. Jason froze, looking up at Sophia in utter disbelief. What? What are you saying about Lily? I have nothing else to say to you, Sophia cut him off. Solve your own problems. Don't ever come looking for me again. And be prepared because I am coming after the money you owe me through the courts. Consider yourself warned. With that, Sophia turned on her heel and walked through the lobby doors without looking back, leaving Jason kneeling on the concrete. The wealthy neighbors kept whispering, Serves him right. A guy like that doesn't deserve a dime. He doesn't even know if the kid is his and he's out here begging. How pathetic. Jason knelt on the ground, his mind completely blank as he listened to their comments. He remembered Lily's massive credit card bills, her mysterious lunches with old friends, and suddenly, doubt consumed him. He stood up slowly. His knees ached and were scraped raw, but he didn't care. He had to get back to Cedars-Sinai and confront Lily. He stumbled away from the luxury high-rise. His silhouette looked pathetic and ridiculous, and the worst part was, this was only the beginning of the nightmare he had built for himself. Just as I was about to walk to the elevators, I heard the roar of an engine behind me. Turning around, I saw a sleek, black Mercedes Maybach pulling up to the curb. The tinted window rolled down, revealing the serious face of my older brother, Paul Sterling. Paul opened the door and stepped out. In his bespoke charcoal suit, he looked impeccable. In his hand, he held a sleek, solid metal black card with gold accents. He walked toward me briskly. Sophia, my security team told me Jason made a scene at Neiman Marcus today. Are you okay? I shook my head, handing my shopping bags to his driver who had stepped out to help. I'm fine, Paul. It was just him playing the victim because his cards declined. I didn't give him the time of day. How did you get here so fast? I asked. I came because I was worried about you, Paul said. Attorney James told me this morning you authorized the account freeze. I was worried Jason might try to corner you or do something stupid once he realized he was broke. I was at a board meeting in Century City, so I just drove over. Paul handed me the metal card. Oh, and I already spoke to the executives at the mall properties. They've put Jason and Lily on a permanent ban list. From now on, just flash this card at any property owned by Sterling Enterprises, and you'll get ultra VIP treatment. I took the card. The front was engraved with the Sterling Group crest, and the back had a serial number in pure gold. It was the absolute highest-tier access card for our family's conglomerate. With this, whether at a luxury mall, a five-star hotel, or any Sterling-owned real estate in the country, I could walk in and get whatever I wanted. The neighbors, who had just been gossiping about Jason kneeling, dropped their jaws when they saw Paul and the Maybach. A woman who lived across the hall from me walked over, stunned. Sophia, is this your brother? Wait, are you? Sterling Enterprises was one of the most powerful real estate and private equity conglomerates on the West Coast. Everyone in LA knew the billionaire family behind it was the Sterlings. But in the 3 years I had been married, I never once mentioned my family to the neighbors. They all assumed I was just a quiet housewife who married well. Paul smiled professionally and nodded. Yes, ma'am. I am Paul Sterling, Sophia's brother. My sister wanted a quiet, normal life. After she got married, that's why we kept our family background private. Apologies for the surprise. No, not at all, the neighbor said, waving her hands, looking at me with pure envy. No wonder Sophia has always been so classy and elegant. Turns out she's a literal heiress. That Jason guy must be blind. Dumping an amazing woman like you for a cheap knockoff. The other neighbors nodded in agreement, loudly stating that Jason had ruined his own life and that I had been way too humble. I smiled politely and was just about to walk into the building with Paul when we heard frantic footsteps and Jason's voice echoing behind us. Sophia! Sophia Sterling, wait! Paul and I turned around at the same time. Jason was running back toward us, panting heavily. His hair was a bird's nest and his suit was covered in dust from kneeling on the pavement. He had clearly run all the way back from wherever he was heading. Seeing Paul, Jason stopped for a second, confused. He didn't seem to recognize him, but in that moment, he didn't care who Paul was. He rushed toward me, reaching for my arm again. Sophia, I just called the hospital. Lily told me the baby is 100% mine. Don't listen to those rumors. Please, help me just this once. Reactivate the card. Once my startup gets funding, I'll pay you back everything I owe. Paul frowned deeply, stepped forward, slapped Jason's hand away, and shielded me with his body. His voice was freezing cold. Who the hell are you to touch my sister? Jason, shoved backward, stumbled a few steps and glared at Paul suspiciously. And who are you? What do you care if I talk to my wife? Ex-wife Paul corrected sharply. And I am her brother, Paul Sterling. Paul pulled a sleek titanium business card from his breast pocket and pointed to the VIP card in my hand. Sterling Enterprises is our family's company. The luxury mall where you made a fool of yourself earlier today? We own the real estate it sits on. You were saying you don't care if I talk to my sister? S. Sterling Enterprises? Jason's eyes widened to the size of saucers. He looked back and forth between Paul's corporate card and the VIP card in my hand, his mouth hanging open. Impossible. Sophia was just a housewife. Her parents owned a little mom-and-pop restaurant. How could she be the daughter of the Sterling family? You're lying to me. The little restaurant he was talking about was how my parents started out. It was true they ran a diner in their 20s, but later they flipped real estate, got into commercial development, and built Sterling Enterprises into a billion-dollar empire. However, neither of them liked being in the media, so not many people knew their faces. When I married Jason, to make sure he wasn't just marrying me for my trust fund, I told him my parents just owned a small business. Paul laughed mockingly, pulled out his iPhone, opened the official Sterling Group corporate website, and shoved the screen in Jason's face. Read it with your own eyes. The board of directors page. My father, my mother, me. And Sophia is the only daughter of the family and a primary heir to the Sterling Trust. Do you honestly think we need to lie to a scrub like you? Jason took the phone with violently shaking hands and stared at the executive profiles. There were the names of CEO Richard Sterling, his wife, Paul, and a vintage photo of my parents from their younger days, the exact same photo he had seen sitting on my nightstand. Back then, I told him it was a photo from their restaurant days, and he had scoffed, calling it tacky. Seeing that photo again now, all the blood drained from Jason's face. The phone slipped through his fingers and clattered onto the pavement. He finally understood exactly what he had thrown away over the last 3 years. He thought he had married a normal, slightly well-off housewife, but in reality, he had married a billionaire heiress. He had blown through Sophia's money like there was no tomorrow, not realizing that to her, it was literally pocket change. For a vain, gold-digging mistress, he had abandoned a wife who could have handed him a 30-year shortcut to the absolute top of the corporate ladder. No, it can't be. Jason collapsed onto his knees on the concrete again, picking up the phone with trembling fingers. Sophia, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me you were a sterling? Watching him completely break down, I spoke with absolute chilling finality. If I had told you, what would have changed? Knowing you, if you knew about my family's wealth, you would have become even more greedy. You probably would have tried to scheme your way into the Sterling board of directors. Jason, you aren't in this situation because I didn't tell you who I was. You're in this situation because of your own limitless greed and betrayal. Paul took a step closer, towering over him. Jason, consider this your final warning. Do not come within 100 feet of my sister again, and you better liquidate whatever you have to pay back the money you stole from her. If you don't, Sterling Enterprises has a legal team that will make sure you don't have a pot to piss in for the rest of your life. Now get the hell off our property. Jason, sitting in the dirt, stared blankly into space, his eyes dead, muttering to himself. I messed up. I really messed up. The neighbors watching felt absolutely zero pity for him. They all agreed he was getting exactly what he deserved. Paul didn't waste another second on him. He took my arm, and we walked into the lobby. In the elevator, Paul looked at me with sympathy. Sophia, you've been through too much. I'm sorry I let you deal with that piece of trash for so long. I shook my head and smiled. It's okay, Paul. The trash took itself out. Just as Paul and I walked into my penthouse, the motion sensors in the foyer clicked on. While I was taking off my heels, the doorbell rang. Paul checked the intercom camera and said, "It's Attorney James." I nodded, and Paul opened the door. Attorney James, wearing a sharp navy suit, walked in carrying a heavy leather briefcase. His expression, all business. Miss Sterling, Mr. Sterling. I came to deliver them personally and outline our next legal maneuvers. While Paul offered the lawyer a Pellegrino, I sat on the Italian leather sofa and watched as he pulled thick stacks of documents from his briefcase. Miss Sterling, you asked my firm to investigate if Mr. Miller had been siphoning funds in secret. We have the results. These are Mr. Miller's bank statements from the last 12 months. As you can see, in June of last year, he wired $200,000 from the authorized user account you provided him directly into an offshore account belonging to Miss Lily Foster. The memo line read, "Personal loan," but not a single cent was ever repaid. Furthermore, in September, he purchased a $150,000 Patek Philippe watch with your funds and gifted it to Miss Foster. We subpoenaed the receipt from the jeweler and cross-referenced it with photos from her Instagram account. Attorney James pulled out another file. It gets worse. He secretly liquidated a piece of fine art, a painting you owned prior to the marriage, selling it to a private buyer for $100,000. He used those funds to purchase limited edition Hermes Birkin bags for Miss Foster. I took the bank statements. Even though I was looking at the hard evidence printed in black and white, my heart remained calm. I expected Jason to be sleazy, but I hadn't realized his greed went as far as fencing my premarital property behind my back. I looked up at the lawyer. Is this enough evidence to bury him? More than enough, Attorney James said firmly. Under California law, if a spouse breaches their fiduciary duty by maliciously hiding or disposing of community or separate property, the court can award the injured spouse 100% of the undisclosed assets as a penalty. Mr. Miller's actions constitute blatant financial fraud and malicious concealment. We are not just demanding the return of the money and the assets, we are seeking punitive damages in civil court. Paul, sitting next to me, frowned deeply. He doesn't just need to return the assets. He needs to be destroyed for this. Having the audacity to steal from the Sterling family. What a joke. Just then, the doorbell rang again, this time frantic and aggressive, like someone was trying to break the door down. Paul checked the intercom, and his jaw tightened. It's Jason. I laughed dryly. The sheer nerve. To come back again? Open it. I was just about to show him these files anyway. As soon as Paul unlocked the door, Jason practically fell inside. He was still wearing the ruined suit. His hair a mess, his eyes bloodshot. He had clearly managed to sneak past the lobby concierge or waited in the parking garage. Seeing the legal documents spread across the coffee table and the lawyer sitting there, Jason panicked but immediately went on the defensive. Sophia, why is your lawyer here? Are you really suing me? I told you. You gave me that money voluntarily. That's not hiding assets. Attorney James stood up and calmly fanned out the bank statements, wire transfers, and Instagram photos on the glass table. Mr. Miller, take a very close look. This is the $200,000 wire transfer to Miss Foster. Here is the receipt for the $150,000 Patek Philippe. And this is the bill of sale for Miss Sterling's premarital artwork. This is irrefutable evidence. The funds Miss Sterling granted you were for marital expenses, not to fund a secret life for a third party. And liquidating Miss Sterling's private property without her consent is a felony. Jason snatched the papers, his hands shaking violently as he flipped through them. With every page he turned, his face grew paler. When he saw the bill of sale for the artwork, he lost it and threw the papers on the floor. She told me to sell that painting. She said she hated it and told me to get rid of it to a friend. Don't lie to my face. I stood up, my eyes locking onto his like a predator. Jason, if you're going to lie, at least make it believable. That painting was an heirloom from my grandfather. I kept it locked in the biometric safe in the study. I was the only one with the code. How did you get in? And why didn't the money from the sale go into our joint account, but instead went straight to buying Lily an exotic leather Birkin? Jason couldn't answer. His lips just trembled. At the time, he had secretly recorded me entering the code to the safe, stolen the painting, and used the cash to buy Lily the bag, telling her he had closed a huge tech deal. Now that the paper trail was exposed, he had zero excuses. Attorney James picked the papers up off the rug and held them out to Jason again. Mr. Miller, the paper trail is absolute. Save your excuses for the judge. I have already filed an ex parte motion with the Los Angeles Superior Court to place a freeze on all your bank accounts and a lien on all your assets, including the West Hollywood condo and your Tesla, until this debt is satisfied. A process server will be formally serving you your summons tomorrow. Prepare for trial. A lien? Jason's voice cracked. He tried to lunge at the lawyer to tear up the papers, but Paul stepped in, grabbing Jason by the collar and easily shoving him back. You dare put a lien on my property? Jason screamed, struggling. I gave that condo to Lily, and I bought that Tesla with my own sweat. What right do you have to freeze it? Sophia, tell your attack dog to drop the lawsuit right now, or I swear to God this won't end well for you. What right? I walked right up to him, my voice quiet but filled with absolute authority. The right of a woman who realizes every single thing you own was bought with her money. Jason, you'd better cooperate and hand over everything you stole. If we go to trial, not only will you be stripped of every asset you possess, but my lawyers will refer the artwork theft to the district attorney. You might actually go to federal prison. The word prison drained every last ounce of fight out of Jason. When Paul let go of his collar, Jason stumbled backward and collapsed onto the edge of the sofa, staring blankly at the ceiling. He finally understood that he was completely, utterly finished. Bankrupt, sued, exposed, and facing actual jail time. Attorney James checked his Rolex and looked at Paul and me. Miss Sterling, Mr. Sterling, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to the firm. I will notify you the moment the judge signs the asset freeze. I nodded and asked Paul to walk the lawyer out. Only Jason and I were left in the massive living room. He sat with his head down, his shoulders shaking, muttering over and over, I messed up. I shouldn't have stolen the money. I shouldn't have cheated on you. Watching him, I felt absolutely nothing. This was the bed he made, and now he had to lie in it. Even if he crawled on his hands and knees, it wouldn't change a thing. I picked up my phone and called the building's concierge. Hi, This is Sophia Sterling in the penthouse. There is an unauthorized trespasser in my unit causing a disturbance. Please send up security to escort him out. If he resists, call the LAPD. I hung up and looked at Jason. Get out. Never come back. And wait for your court summons. Jason looked up. His eyes were filled with profound, agonizing regret. He opened his mouth to beg one more time. But the elevator doors in the private foyer opened, and two burly security guards stepped in, grabbing him by the arms. He struggled, screaming, "Sophia, I'm sorry. Give me one more chance." The guards dragged him out of the penthouse. As the heavy oak door clicked shut, his screams faded down the hallway. I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked down at the street below. A few minutes later, I saw the guards physically tossing Jason onto the sidewalk outside the gates, like a stray dog. Paul walked up behind me and put a hand on my shoulder. Don't waste any more mental energy on a guy like that. He's not worth it. As soon as security threw him onto the sidewalk, Jason started sprinting like a madman back toward Cedars-Sinai. His mind was solely focused on Lily and the baby. They were his only hope now. Without the child, he would have no leverage, no family, and absolutely nothing to lean on. Arriving at the ER, he saw that the red light above the surgical suite was still on. Anna, one of Lily's shallow influencer friends, was sitting on a plastic chair in the waiting room, her eyes red. Jason rushed up to her, grabbed her shoulders, and asked in a shaking voice, "Anna, how are Lily and the baby?" Anna shoved his hands off her and glared at him. "Oh, now you care? Where the hell were you? Lily has been in surgery since this morning, and you disappeared and wouldn't answer your phone. The surgeon just came out and said it's really bad. They probably can't save the baby." "Can't save it?" Jason's legs gave out, and he almost collapsed onto the linoleum floor. He leaned against the wall, his mind buzzing. How? She was totally fine this morning. Fine? Anna scoffed loudly. And why do you think she started having horrible cramps out of nowhere? Because of you. After you got exposed at Neiman Marcus as a broke sugar baby and embarrassed the hell out of her in public, she had a panic attack. You guys fought. Her blood pressure spiked. And that's why this happened. And now, because you couldn't pay the deposit, they had to delay giving her the specialized meds until the hospital administrator approved a charity care override. Jason suddenly remembered he had run away from the billing desk. He patted his pockets, but he only had a few crumpled dollar bills. His phone screen was cracked, and his data was throttled. He pulled out the phone to try calling his frat brothers one more time, but the result was the same, sent straight to voicemail. Right at that moment, the red light above the OR turned off. A surgeon in scrubs walked out, followed by nurses pushing a gurney. Lily lay on it, her face as white as a sheet, her eyes closed. There was an IV drip in her arm. Jason rushed over and grabbed the doctor's arm. "Doc, how is my fiancé and my baby?" The doctor frowned and sighed. "I'm very sorry. We did everything we could, but the placental abruption was too severe. We couldn't save the pregnancy. The patient is very weak right now and has lost a lot of blood. We're moving her to recovery. Furthermore, due to the complications of this miscarriage, the chances of her carrying a child to term in the future are incredibly low. As her family, she is going to need significant emotional support. The baby is gone." Jason stood frozen. The room spun around him. He looked at Lily on the gurney, and suddenly, a massive wave of toxic rage hit him. The baby was gone. His last hope of having a family or any leverage had vanished. Now, all he was left with was a massive hospital bill and frozen bank accounts. He was completely ruined. Lily slowly opened her eyes. Seeing Jason, tears began to stream down her pale cheeks. "Jason," she whispered weakly, "our baby. We lost our baby." Jason, already at a breaking point, exploded when he heard her cry. He shoved past the doctor, marched right up to the gurney, pointed a finger in Lily's face, and screamed, "Crying! Crying isn't going to fix anything. If you hadn't thrown a massive temper tantrum at Sophia in the mall, if you hadn't acted like a hysterical psycho, the baby wouldn't be gone. Now I have no kid. I have a massive hospital bill I can't pay. Sophia is suing me, and the government froze my accounts. You are a curse. Everything has gone to hell since I met you." Hearing his venomous insults, Lily went into shock. She stared at Jason's twisted, monstrous face, unable to believe what she was hearing. Enduring the agonizing pain in her abdomen, she struggled to prop herself up. Jason, how can you say that to me? That was your baby too. Because you're a broke fraud who couldn't even pay the ER copay, they couldn't give me the meds in time. All this tragedy is because you were living like a parasite off your ex-wife. And when she cut you off, you dragged me down with you. And now you call me a curse? Jason grew even more furious and raised his hand as if to slap her, but a male nurse immediately tackled his arm. Hey, back off, man! The nurse shouted, putting himself between Jason and the bed. The patient just came out of surgery. You need to leave immediately or I'm calling hospital security. Jason, restrained by the nurse, barely managed to lower his hand, but he continued glaring at Lily with pure hatred. Don't argue with me. The only thing that matters right now is this hospital bill. You better figure it out. Sell all those Birkin bags and Cartier bracelets I bought you and pay the bill. Sell my jewelry and bags? Lily looked at him, utterly appalled. You gifted me those things, begging me to be with you. And now you want me to pawn them? Jason, you being broke is one thing. But how can you stoop so low as to ask me to sell my things while I'm bleeding in a hospital bed? Because I bought them with my money. Jason screamed back, completely delusional. Now that I'm in a tight spot, what does it cost you to sell them? If you don't, who is going to pay this bill? Sophia? My friends? Seeing this side of Jason, Lily felt a glacial chill spread through her entire body. She finally understood that Jason had never truly loved her. Everything he had done for her was just a flex, using Sophia's money. Now that the money was gone, his true narcissistic nature was exposed. Not only did he not care that she just lost a child, but he was demanding she pawn her gifts and calling her a curse. A massive void opened in her chest, and she sobbed uncontrollably. She didn't say another word. She just turned her head and gave him her back. Anna, standing nearby, couldn't hold back anymore. She pointed at Jason and yelled, "Jason Miller, you are an absolute scumbag. Lily just lost her child. She is physically destroyed, and instead of comforting her, you scream at her to pawn her purses? Are you even a human being?" Jason didn't have time to argue with Anna. His mind was racing about the hospital bills and his frozen accounts. He looked at Lily, then at the nurses gathering around, and suddenly realized he couldn't stay here. If the hospital billing department cornered him and he had no money, they'd send it to collections and garnish whatever he had left. Gritting his teeth, without anyone noticing, he took a few steps back, turned around, and sprinted down the hallway toward the exit. Seeing him run, Anna yelled, "Hey, you coward! Pay the hospital bill before you leave." But Jason didn't listen. He ran even faster, pushing through the ER doors and disappearing into the Los Angeles smog. Hearing Anna's shout, Lily turned her head and saw that Jason had abandoned her. She couldn't stop the tears. She collapsed back onto the pillows, sobbing violently. "Jason, come back! Don't leave me!" A nurse walked over, handed her a tissue, and sighed softly. "Miss, please try not to stress yourself. A man like that isn't worth your tears. Call your family so they can come help you with the discharge papers. Your health is the priority." Lily, weeping, shook her head. "I don't have family. My parents cut me off years ago." Anna walked over and awkwardly patted her arm. "Lily, don't worry. I'll put the bill on my Amex for now. We'll sue Jason in small claims court later. But you see him clearly now, right? Never let a guy like that near you again." Lily nodded. Her heart was filled with toxic regret and pure hatred. She regretted letting her vanity blind her, hooking up with a parasite like Jason just because he flashed a black card. And she hated Jason's cruelty for abandoning her at the absolute lowest moment of her life. Jason fled the hospital and stumbled his way to his startup's office in Manfican Beach. His mind was obsessed with one single idea. The company could not go bankrupt. If his startup survived, maybe he could siphon some seed money from his investors to pay off his debts and find a way to grovel back to Sophia. Maybe then he'd have a chance to start over. His startup occupied a 1,000 square foot suite in an older office park in Santa Monica, employing barely 10 people. It had only survived this long thanks to an anonymous $500,000 angel investment that Sophia had secretly arranged through a proxy firm. But with 3 months of missed payroll, the employees were ready to riot. Jason kicked the glass door open and yelled, "Sarah, Mark, bring me the term sheets for the Series A with Vanguard Capital. And get me the contact for the VP at Apex Tech. I need to pitch a new funding round today." The office was dead silent. A few software engineers were silently packing their keyboards and personal items into cardboard boxes. No one looked at him. Sarah, the office manager, looked up. Her eyes were filled with exhaustion and deep resentment. "Mr. Miller, don't bother. We just got an email from Vanguard Capital pulling their term sheet. They are severing all ties with us. And the VP at Apex Tech called an hour ago to say they're canceling the vendor contract." "What?" Jason stormed over and grabbed the office manager by the arm, his nails digging into her skin. "Why are they canceling? Everything was fine. Yesterday they promised us another bridge loan. Why would they pull out today?" Sarah yanked her arm free, rubbing it, and glared at him coldly. "Why? Because of you. A high-powered corporate lawyer called them this morning, stating that you are being sued by your ex-wife, Miss Laxlack, Sophia Sterling, for hundreds of thousands of dollars in fraud, that you embezzled corporate funds to support a mistress, and that your assets have been frozen by a judge. Vanguard and Apex don't want the liability or the PR nightmare of being associated with a fraudster. They dropped us." Jason froze. A loud ringing started in his ears. He knew it was Sophia. Sophia had her attack dog lawyer call his investors to cut off his last lifeline. But how? How did Sophia know the contacts at Vanguard and Apex? He had never discussed his cap table with her. Just then, his cracked iPhone buzzed. It was Mr. Davis, the managing partner of the proxy firm that handled his initial $500,000 angel investment. Jason answered the phone like a drowning man grabbing a rope. "Mr. Davis, are you calling about the next round of funding? Don't worry, as soon as the cash hits the account, we'll be profitable by Q3. Mr. Miller, wake up." Mr. Davis's voice on the other end was absolute ice. "I am calling to formally notify you that we are calling in the $500,000 convertible note. Effective immediately. You are in breach of contract. We demand full repayment within 72 hours. Furthermore, we have circulated a memo regarding your fraudulent financial activities to every major VC firm in the Valley. From this moment on, you are blacklisted. No one will ever do business with you again." "Calling in the note? Repayment of $500,000? Jason screamed. "Mr. Davis, you can't do this. We have a signed contract. Pulling funding unilaterally is a breach of contract." "Breach of contract?" Mr. Davis laughed sharply. "You have the nerve to talk to me about breach of contract, you deadbeat? What have you done with the seed money over the last 3 months, other than buying designer handbags for your mistress? You haven't made payroll, and you haven't shipped a single product update. And now you have a court-ordered asset freeze against you. I'd be guilty of malpractice if I didn't pull the funding. Oh, and one more thing. The anonymous principal who instructed me to invest that $500,000 in you in the first place? That was Miss Sophia Sterling. Now that she wants to liquidate her portfolio, it is my fiduciary duty to comply. Sophia." It was Sophia again. The phone slipped from Jason's hand and shattered against the concrete floor. He finally understood everything. His startup had only survived this long because Sophia had been secretly funding it. And now, it was going bankrupt because she was pulling the plug. She had the power to make him a CEO, and she had the power to turn him into dust. The employees in the office, hearing the conversation, erupted into a frenzy. "What? They pulled the funding and he owes $500,000? No wonder we haven't been paid. He spent our payroll on his side piece. Hell no. We are not letting him get away with this. Pay us our back wages right now. I'm 3 months behind on rent." Several engineers surrounded Jason, shouting in his face. "Mr. Miller, cut us our checks right now. If you don't, we are calling the California Labor Commissioner. If you don't pay us, we are going to press criminal charges for wage theft." Jason, cornered by his furious employees, looked at their angry faces and felt complete and utter despair. Not only could he not pay them, he didn't even have a place to sleep tonight. "I don't have the money. I swear to God, I don't have the money." Jason dropped to his knees, clutching his head in his hands, and began to sob uncontrollably. "The company is bankrupt. I'm ruined. If you want to sue me, go ahead. I have nothing left." Seeing him groveling and crying on the floor, the employees realized that no matter how much they yelled, they weren't getting blood from a stone. One software engineer sighed in disgust and walked out. Another cursed loudly, grabbed his monitors, and left. Another pulled out his phone and dialed the Department of Labor. Jason slowly pushed himself up off the floor. The office was emptying out. Employees were leaving one by one, carrying their boxes. On the desks, only scattered papers and cheap office supplies remained. The neon sign that read Miller Tech Solutions on the wall flickered, looking incredibly pathetic. He walked over to his corner office desk and opened the bottom drawer. Inside were a few past due notices from vendors and a Polaroid picture of Lily. He picked up the photo. Seeing Lily's radiant fake smile, a toxic mix of regret and hatred boiled in his chest. If he had never met her, if he had just been a loyal husband to Sophia, he would still be the envied Mr. Miller, swiping a black card without a care in the world. But it was too late. The company was dead. He had lost his money, his child, and his marriage. He had become the laughingstock of Los Angeles. Jason wandered the streets of downtown LA for half the day. His stomach was growling fiercely, but he didn't have a single dollar in his pocket to buy a slice of pizza. As dusk fell, the streetlights flickered on one by one, and his elongated shadow looked particularly miserable. He dug into his pockets, pulled out his shattered iPhone, and managed to force it to reboot. The screen glowed weakly, just enough to make out his contacts. He scrolled through the list, but there were only the numbers of old buddies who had ghosted him, and Sophia. He hesitated to call her. She had divorced him, frozen his assets, and sued him into oblivion. There was no way she would help him. Just then, he heard heavy, rapid footsteps and a gruff voice from the alley behind him. Jason Miller, don't you move a muscle. Don't even think about running. Jason spun around, his heart jumping into his throat. 3 massive, heavily tattooed men were jogging toward him. The one in the front had a nasty scar running down the side of his face. It was Scarface Tony, the loan shark he had gone to when the startup first started missing payroll. His stomach dropped. Last month, desperate to keep the lights on and buy time, he had borrowed $100,000 in street money. Today was the day he owed $150,000 in principal and street interest. Now he didn't have a dime, and the startup was dead. Tony had clearly come to collect. I'm not running, Jason stammered, but instinctively backed up, boxing himself into a narrow, dead-end alley stinking of garbage. He knew if Tony caught him, he'd be leaving in an ambulance, but where could he run? He barely took 3 steps before one of the enforcers caught him, grabbed his arm, twisted it brutally behind his back, and slammed him face first onto the asphalt. His knee slammed against a brick, and he screamed in pain. Tony walked up slowly, crouched down, and pressed the heavy sole of his combat boot onto the back of Jason's neck. His voice was calm, but terrifying. Jason, you run pretty fast for a tech geek. Why'd you stop? The $150K you owe me. Today is collection day. Jason, pinned to the pavement, gasped for air and pleaded with a trembling voice. Tony, man, give me a few more days. My startup just folded. I swear to God, I don't have the cash. As soon as I get a job, I'll pay you back every cent. A few more days? Tony sneered, pressing his boot down harder, grinding Jason's face into the dirt. Last month you asked for an extension. You said your tech company was going to get funded. And what happened? It went under, and now you're trying to skip town without paying. I told you on day 1. In my line of work, nobody who owes me money walks away. One of the enforcers cracked his knuckles and added, Boss, we don't need to talk to this clown. If he doesn't have the cash, we break his legs or shatter his writing hand. That'll teach him not to borrow street money. Jason, utterly terrified, began to shake violently. No, not my legs. I don't have it, but I can get it. Suddenly, he thought of Sophia. It was a 1,000,000-to-1 shot that she would help him, but right now, she was his literal only hope of surviving the night. He struggled to lift his head. His knee was bleeding through his slacks, but he didn't feel the pain. He pulled the cracked phone from his pocket and, with shaking hands, dialed Sophia's number. The phone rang several times, and finally, it connected. On the other end, Sophia's voice was ice cold. Hello? Sophia! It's me, Jason! Jason wailed, crying into the receiver. Please, Sophia, you have to help me. I owe $150,000 to a loan shark. Tony's here, and he says he's going to break my legs. If you just wire me the $150K, I swear I'll pay you back. I'll be your slave for the rest of my life if I have to. Tony stood above him, arms crossed, a mocking smirk on his scarred face. curious to see if the billionaire ex-wife would actually bail this loser out. There was a silence on the other end of the line. Then, Sophia spoke, her voice laced with absolute frost. Jason, why on earth would I care that you owe a loan shark money? You took out that loan, and you blew the money playing pretend millionaire with Lily. And now that the bill is due, you come begging me? Do you actually think I'm going to save you? Sophia, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Jason sobbed hysterically. I'll never see Lily again. I won't be greedy. I just want to live. Please, have a heart and help me just this once. Have a heart? Sophia's tone turned mocking. When you were buying diamond rings and luxury condos for Lily with my money, did you have a heart? When you plotted with her to blindside me with a divorce and leave me with nothing, did you have a heart? Jason, you are in this alley because you walked yourself into it. It has absolutely nothing to do with me. Pay your own debts. And don't ever call this number again. Click. Sophia hung up. The phone emitted the dull, repetitive beep of a disconnected line. Jason lay frozen, the cracked phone in his hand. Tears mixed with the dirt on his face. His heart was consumed by an abyss of despair. He knew now that Sophia was never going to help him. He was truly at the end of the line. Tony, seeing the look on Jason's face, knew the ex-wife had shut him down. His expression hardened into stone. Looks like nobody is coming to save you. If you can't pay, don't blame me for what happens next. He flicked his chin at his enforcers. The two massive men yanked Jason up by the arms and slammed him against the brick wall. Tony pulled back his fist and drove a brutal punch right into Jason's stomach. Gah! Jason screamed, doubling over as all the air left his lungs. Cold sweat poured down his face. Tony didn't stop. He unleashed a flurry of heavy punches to Jason's face and ribs. Jason's nose shattered with a sickening crunch, blood pouring out, and his lips split open. He tried to struggle, but the two men held him pinned like a rag doll. He could do nothing but take the savage beating. You think you can play games with my money? Tony roared, landing another blow. The heavy thuds echoed sickeningly down the alleyway. A few pedestrians walking past the mouth of the alley saw what was happening, panicked, and hurried away. No one was going to call the cops for a back alley beatdown in LA. After what felt like an eternity, Tony finally stopped. He stood panting, looking down at Jason, who was now crumpled on the asphalt, barely conscious. He was covered in bruises, his designer suit torn and bloody, his face an unrecognizable mess. He lay motionless, only the ragged wheezing of his breath proving he was still alive. Tony crouched down and slapped Jason's swollen cheek a few times. Jason, I'm giving you 3 days. If you don't have my $150,000 in 3 days, I'm taking one of your legs. And remember, I always keep my promises. With that, Tony turned around and walked out of the alley with his crew, leaving Jason alone in the cold, damp darkness. Laying on the ground, every single breath was agony. He stared up at the narrow strip of smoggy Los Angeles sky, visible between the buildings, as tears and blood pooled on the asphalt. He thought about his life just a few weeks ago. Even if he was living off Sophia's money, at least he slept in a silk bed, drove a Tesla, and had the envy of everyone around him. But now, he had lost it all. Beaten by loan sharks, abandoned by his wife, betrayed by his mistress, with absolutely no one left to call. He slowly pushed himself up from the ground and limped out of the alley. He didn't know where to go. The night wind off the Pacific was freezing. He knew that in 3 days, if he didn't have the $150K, Tony would make good on his threat and cripple him. But right now, he didn't have a single dollar, let alone a place to sleep. How was he supposed to get that kind of cash? Sitting in the executive office of the flagship branch of Sterling Enterprises in Century City, I reviewed the monthly profit and loss report fresh off the printer, a satisfied smile on my lips. In just 1 month of taking over this division, the revenue had spiked from an average of $30 million a month to over $100 million. We had absolutely crushed our quarterly targets. The heavy glass door to my office opened quietly, and my executive assistant, Chloe, walked in with a fresh oat milk latte. With an excited expression, she said, "Miss Sterling, you are incredible. This division had been hemorrhaging money for 6 months, and the board was seriously considering liquidating it. Since you took the helm, we've broken the $100 million mark. HR just called from corporate to say they're authorizing performance bonuses for the entire staff. I took the coffee and smiled. I didn't do it alone. It's the result of the entire team grinding late nights. Oh, is everything prepped for the 2 p.m. merger meeting with Matthew Vance? Yes, everything is ready. Chloe nodded. I confirmed with Mr. Vance's chief of staff. They will be arriving promptly at 2. The executive boardroom is prepped and the NDAs are on the table. Vance Industries was a rapidly growing tech and renewable energy conglomerate that had been dominating the Silicon Valley headlines recently. There were massive synergies between their green tech and our commercial real estate portfolio. If this joint venture went through, it wouldn't just boost our stock price. It would position us as leaders in sustainable development. At 1:50 p.m., I walked into the boardroom to review the slide deck. Shortly after, I heard Chloe's voice in the hallway. Right this way, Mr. Vance? I looked up and saw a man walking in wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal gray Tom Ford suit. He was over 6'2", with sharp, striking features and an incredibly charismatic aura. His smile was warm and genuine. It was Matthew Vance, the CEO of Vance Industries. Miss Sterling. I've heard incredible things about you, Matthew said, extending his hand smoothly. People in the industry have been talking about a brilliant, driven young executive taking over the Sterling portfolio. Seeing you today, the rumors clearly didn't do you justice. I shook his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and professional. You're too kind, Mr. Vance. I've been following your work closely. What Vance Industries has achieved in the solar grid sector is setting the gold standard for everyone else. As soon as we sat down, the negotiations began. Matthew had a razor-sharp understanding of the market, and his proposals for the joint venture were highly constructive. He genuinely considered the profit margins for both sides and outlined aggressive ways to mitigate supply chain risks. I, in turn, laid out the logistical advantages of utilizing Sterling's massive real estate footprint. We clicked instantly, agreeing on key points without the usual corporate posturing. Halfway through the meeting, Matthew's assistant stepped in and whispered something urgently in his ear. Matthew frowned slightly, then offered me an apologetic smile. Miss Sterling, I am so sorry. An urgent issue requires my immediate sign-off. May I step out for 10 minutes? Of course, Mr. Vance. Take your time, I said, offering a polite smile. After Matthew left the room, I took a sip of my sparkling water. Just as I set the glass down, I heard a familiar voice at the boardroom door. Sophia, how's the pitch going? I hear that Matthew Vance guy is the real deal. Young, sharp, solid reputation. Not like those other spoiled trust fund brats. It was my brother, Paul. He walked in, grinning. I shook my head, amused. Paul, what are you doing here? Interrupting a multi-million-dollar meeting to gossip? I came because I wanted to check on you. Paul sat down in the leather chair next to me. Mom and Dad have been worried sick. They thought you were going to spiral after the divorce. Now that they see you crushing it as an executive, they can finally breathe. Oh, and by the way, don't give Jason another thought. Attorney James called. The judge ruled in our favor. Default judgment. He ordered Jason to return every single asset. The condo, the cash, plus interest and punitive damages. But the process servers can't find him. Can't find him? Yeah, apparently he skipped town to dodge his loan sharks. He's vanished off the grid. He's living like a literal stray dog now. Paul's voice carried a heavy dose of schadenfreude. Got it, I said, waving it off. If they can't find him, whatever. His bank accounts are frozen and the condo is in our possession. He has nowhere to run anyway. As we were talking, Matthew walked back into the room. Seeing Paul, he looked surprised for a split second, but immediately smiled. This is my brother, Paul Sterling. President of Sterling Enterprises, I introduced them. Paul, this is Matthew Vance, CEO of Vance Industries. Paul stood up and shook Matthew's hand. Mr. Vance, great to finally meet you in person. We crossed paths at a Bloomberg Economic Summit a few years ago, but I didn't think you'd be partnering up with my sister so soon. The pleasure is mine, Mr. Sterling. It's a genuine privilege to collaborate with Miss Sterling, Matthew said smoothly. After that, the rest of the meeting went flawlessly. In less than an hour, we finalized the term sheet for the joint venture and signed the preliminary contracts. After signing, Matthew looked at me and said, Miss Sterling, to celebrate the launch of our partnership, I'd love to take you out to dinner tonight. Mr. Sterling, if you're available, you are more than welcome to join. Oh, I'm fully booked tonight. Paul lied instantly, glancing at me. Sophia, don't stay at the office too late. Go have dinner with Mr. Vance. Discuss the partnership. I shot Paul a look of utter disbelief, but then nodded to Matthew. All right, I'd love to. Dinner was at Nobu in Malibu, right on the water, with a beautiful sunset view. The food was incredible. During the meal, instead of talking about term sheets and profit margins, Matthew asked about my hobbies. I found out that outside of running a tech empire, he loved reading historical biographies and hiking the trails in Topanga Canyon. We had a surprising amount in common. The atmosphere was incredibly relaxed and completely free of the toxic pressure I was used to. After dinner, Matthew insisted on having his driver take me home. Sitting in the back of his Bentley, driving down the Pacific Coast Highway, the lights of Los Angeles sprawled out beautifully outside the window. The neon lights illuminated Matthew's profile, making his sharp features look surprisingly gentle. Miss Sterling, I actually knew who you were before today, Matthew said suddenly, looking over at me. I heard through the grapevine that you recently went through a very public, very messy divorce. But honestly, I think a woman as brilliant and capable as you deserves a much better life. I was caught off guard for a second, but then I smiled a genuine smile. Thank you, Matthew. I think so too. What happened in the past was a nightmare, but it forced me to grow up and take control of my life. I know exactly what I want now, and I value my peace more than anything. I'm glad to hear that. Matthew turned slightly, his eyes locked onto mine with intense sincerity. I hope that moving forward, besides being business partners, we can be friends. If you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to call me. The car pulled up to the valet stand at my luxury high-rise. I unbuckled my seatbelt and turned to him. Thank you for dinner, Matthew. I had a wonderful time tonight, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we build together. Likewise, Matthew smiled. Have a good night, Sophia. I'll see you tomorrow. I stepped out of the car. Watching his Bentley disappear into the Los Angeles night, I felt a strange, comforting warmth in my chest. Right after the divorce, I had felt lost and betrayed, but step by step, I had rebuilt my armor and found my inner peace. Not only had I reclaimed my identity and my career, but I had also met someone as exceptional and genuine as Matthew. My new life had just begun, and I knew there were incredible things waiting for me. Before going to sleep, I checked my iPhone and saw a secure message from Attorney James. Miss Sterling, Jason Miller is currently a fugitive. He abandoned his rental apartment and is actively evading his creditors and loan sharks. But rest assured, the court has granted the default judgment, and the seizure of his remaining physical assets is proceeding as planned. I typed a quick reply. Understood. Thank you for your hard work. I put the phone on the nightstand and closed my eyes. Whatever happened to Jason Miller didn't matter to me anymore. His absolute ruin was the direct result of his own arrogance, greed, and betrayal. It had nothing to do with me. Now, my focus was entirely on my career, my family, the people who actually mattered, and living every single day for myself. A few weeks later, on a bright, sunny Saturday morning, Matthew had invited me out shopping. We ended up at the exact same high-end luxury mall in Beverly Hills, where the entire drama had gone down. I hadn't stepped foot in the place since the day Jason's black card declined. This time, Matthew insisted on buying me a necklace to commemorate the official groundbreaking of our joint venture project. He was so politely stubborn about it that I couldn't refuse. His sleek black Range Rover pulled up to the VIP valet at the mall entrance. Matthew, ever the gentleman, opened the door and helped me out. I was wearing an ivory silk sundress with a light gray cashmere cardigan, and Matthew was in a sharp, casual navy blazer. As we walked together, people naturally turned to look at us. I heard this mall is actually a Sterling Enterprises property, Matthew said as we walked through the marble atrium, looking around with a curious glint in his eye. I smiled and nodded. Yes. My parents acquired the land years ago, and Paul oversaw the commercial development. And the jewelry boutique where I had that massive blowout with my ex is right over there. I see, Matthew said, gently lacing his fingers through mine. Forget the past, just enjoy today. I'm going to find you the most beautiful necklace in California. The mall was packed with weekend shoppers. First, we went up to the designer fashion level at Neiman Marcus. Matthew picked out several outfits and insisted I try them on. When I walked out of the fitting room in a stunning cocktail dress, his eyes lit up. That dress was made for you. It really brings out your eyes. A personal shopper standing nearby chimed in. Ma'am, your boyfriend has incredible taste. This piece is fresh off the runway from the Paris collection, and it fits you flawlessly. I blushed slightly and was about to clarify that we were just business partners, but Matthew beat me to it. Thank you. We'll take this dress, and please ring up all the other items I set aside earlier. I looked at him in surprise, but Matthew just winked at me and whispered, consider it an executive signing bonus for the merger. After the clothing department, we took the glass elevator down to the fine jewelry boutique on the ground floor, the exact same store where Jason had tried to buy the diamond ring. As soon as I walked in, the boutique manager who had dealt with Jason rushed over, beaming. Miss Sterling, welcome back. It's an absolute honor to have you. This is my friend, Matthew Vance. I introduced him. The manager smiled broadly. Mr. Vance, welcome. Miss Sterling is one of our most treasured VIP clients. How can I assist you today? We just received a private shipment from Geneva with some phenomenal necklaces that would look absolutely breathtaking on Miss Sterling. Matthew pointed to a stunning sapphire and diamond pendant displayed in a reinforced glass case. Could we take a closer look at that one, please? The manager put on white silk gloves and carefully extracted the necklace. Matthew took it, stepped behind me, and gently clasped it around my neck. It's perfect. We'll take it. I looked at myself in the floor-to-ceiling mirror. The necklace was elegant but undeniably striking, the deep blue sapphire catching the boutique lights brilliantly. It was gorgeous. Just as I was about to tell Matthew that it was too extravagant a gift, my iPhone buzzed in my purse. It was Paul. Hey, Sophia, where are you? At the Promenade Mall with Matthew. Why? Got it. Just wanted to give you an update. The LAPD found Jason. Oh, did they arrest him? No, he's not in jail. The loan sharks got to him first. They beat him half to death and shattered his leg because he couldn't pay up. He's crippled. He's been living on the streets in Skid Row, dodging warrants and begging for scraps. He's literally a homeless vagrant now. Paul's voice held a mix of disgust and dark amusement. Understood, Paul. Let him rot on the streets. His assets are seized and he has nothing left. He's not our problem anymore. I hung up the phone. Matthew looked at me with concern. Was that about Jason? I nodded. Yes. The police found him. He's living on the streets now. But it doesn't matter. I don't care anymore. Matthew squeezed my hand softly. Then don't waste another second thinking about him. Let's finish shopping. And tonight, I'm taking you to that exclusive omakase place in Little Tokyo you wanted to try. I smiled, nodded, and walked out of the jewelry boutique with Matthew. Just as we reached the massive glass doors of the mall's main exit, leading out to the valet stand, I saw a homeless man huddled on the edge of the sidewalk. He was wearing filthy, ragged clothes, and his long, matted hair covered half his face. He held a crumpled Starbucks cup in his shaking hands. Kneeling on the concrete, one of his legs was twisted at an unnatural angle. He was muttering to people walking by, "Spare some change, please. God bless." Most people actively avoided him, giving him a wide berth, though occasionally someone would toss a quarter into his cup. At first, I didn't pay any attention to him, and was about to step into Matthew's waiting SUV. But the raspy, broken voice of the beggar sounded strangely familiar. I stopped and looked closer. The homeless man, feeling someone staring at him, slowly raised his head, revealing his face. It was covered in grime, soot, and premature wrinkles. His hair was graying and filthy, but I recognized him instantly. It was Jason. His eyes were bloodshot, his cheeks sunken and hollow, his lips cracked and bleeding. He smelled of urine and garbage. He looked absolutely nothing like the man who used to strut around in Tom Ford suits flexing a black card. Jason recognized me too. His bloodshot eyes widened in absolute shock. He tried to scramble up, but with his shattered, untreated leg, he collapsed painfully back onto the concrete. He reached out a trembling, filthy hand, as if trying to grab the hem of my designer dress, and whimpered, "Sophia. Sophia Sterling. It's me. Jason. Please, give me a 20. Give me something. I'm starving to death." Matthew, without a second thought, stepped cleanly in front of me, shielding me with his body. He frowned down at the beggar. "Back off. Jason, seeing Matthew's towering, protective stance, looked at the expensive tailored clothes I was wearing and the massive sapphire sparkling around my neck. Then he looked down at his own rotting, filthy rags. His eyes filled with an agonizing, soul-crushing mix of regret and jealousy. He slowly pulled his trembling hand back, lowered his head into the dirt, and said in a broken, wheezing sob, "Never mind. It's nothing. I was just asking the lady for some change. I was wrong. I shouldn't have betrayed you. I shouldn't have funded my mistress with your money."